With the absence of a traditional E3 this year, digital events took the spotlight. How did that compare?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am Digital Fox.
I am coming to you live via stream, Des.
You're not, though. This is not live.
This is pre-recorded.
This is
quite
not
a
live.
Bit. Yeah.
So we just talked about how you have a lot of stuff you did to talk about.
Yeah, I did.
I don't have very
I did
much, but I did watch Schindler's List for the first time this week. Kind of random. I was like, hey, so we're going to make a lot of jokes about the movie.
No, we are not. Nope. Put my foot down on that right now.
No. I was thinking, this isn't a movie I can talk about. I'm not going to review Schindler's List. What? So, and then it got me thinking, you know what?
Oh, no.
Rotten Tomatoes has an audience score for every movie.
No.
And you know that Schindler's List probably has some pretty interesting reviews.
No.
And so we're going to do a segment that I call Rot Takes. Rotten Tomatoes takes. Rot Takes. I thought that was kind of clever.
Is this specifically on Schindler's List?
No, we're going to be avoiding Schindler's
goodness.
List. Obviously, great movie.
It's a masterpiece.
It was
It's phenomenal. Liam Neeson kills it, man.
And what's his name? The other guy, Amon Get, the Nazi that he basically.
Yes.
Yeah, he literally kills it. So anyway, but there are lots of other classic, essentially objectively great movies.
Okay, so are you just gonna mention it?
I'm going to read you I'm going to read you negative reviews of basically objectively good movies.
Right.
Give you I'm going to read you the review and give you the score. Yeah, obviously there's no such thing as an objectively good movie,
right?
Unless maybe it's a documentary and it's all factually correct. Mm-hmm. That maybe, but even that can have a slant. Anyway, I'm going to read you negative reviews of classic great films, but I will not tell you what the movie is.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm going to read you the reviews.
I'm really excited.
Okay, they're good. Some of them are going to have to be slightly edited because they mentioned the name or something in it will give it away. So I'm going to do my best there. But we are going to start. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here's a good one. All right, so Super S, that's the user, gave this movie 2 stars. I think this movie is way too long. You can make do with a 5-minute video that explains the whole plot instead of watching fights and mythological creatures for 4 hours. Fernando D gave this movie 2 stars. Quite uninteresting. Lots of nonsense here. The character looks like a looser, spelled loser with 2 O's.
Right.
A looser instead of a brave man. Do you have any guesses so far?
Mythological creatures. I'm going to go thus far with Thor.
Okay, that's not correct. I'll give you another one here.
Okay.
Jeff
Foxworthy.
Yes, I hope so.
You might be a redneck unless you have this opinion of this movie.
Gave this movie 1 star. If you're a fan of roller coaster action, CGI, and over-the-top storytelling, you'll love this movie. If you don't care about plot, story, or character development, you'll like it even more. Even if you are in any way a fan of the original blank novels.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
This movie is unwatchable. Yes, those are reviews for Peter Jackson's Return of the King.
Return of the King. Literally one of the greatest films ever made.
Tied for the most amount of Oscars ever won by a single movie.
That is insane.
I love it. Here, let me fill in the second one.
Let
me fill in the second one. Quite uninteresting. Lots of nonsense here. Frodo looks like a loser instead of a brave man.
But that's the point. That's the point. He's not a brave man.
Instead of a brave man. I just love that phrasing. Okay.
Brave man.
All right.
They got Mel Gibson to play Braveman.
They should have. They really should have, and make him taller instead of short.
I want to argue with these, but I know that's not the point here.
No. We're just dunking on him anonymously like cool cool brave men. Let's get into some news, though. What you got going on right now?
On the note, I got something about Naughty Dog and Last of Us 2 right now.
Oh, great.
Because unfortunately, Naughty Dog recently had to issue a public statement saying, hey, please don't give abusive comments or death threats to our actors.
I know I've very intentionally not really read anything about the game to try to avoid all spoilers possible. But I do know there's been some anti-Semitic commentary.
Anti-Semitic, really?
Yeah, toward Dina's character.
Right. Oh yeah, that's been a while. Yeah, that's been going on since the preview.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen much.
But
So
Naughty Dog condemns abusive fans sending death threats and harassment to the Last of Us 2 team. So writers have been getting a lot of abuse and death threats. Not Ashley Johnson, the other one.
Troy Baker.
No.
Ashley Birch.
Dang it! What the heck is it that plays Laura or plays Abby? Maybe Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey. There we go. You said her name.
Just did it for
you know
me.
the actor that plays Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey, just because she plays Abby and the character Abby does some things that, no spoilers, but pretty early in the game does some things that fans of the series are not happy with.
Sure.
And so there are a lot of people sending death threats.
Man,
to Laura Bailey
that
too.
is misplaced aggression.
It's ridiculous.
I'm sad about
right?
a thing that happened in the game, and I hate the actor who played the character who did it now. Like, what?
Another thing I was talking about with my wife recently is something that what I call the quarantines. The quarantines have been doing to us.
The quarantines.
Where human beings in general are kind of losing individuality. We are kind of getting again, this is all Steve talk, Des talk, a digital mob mentality where because we see everything online, we only have a global or a national or an overview perspective. But because we're not interacting individually with human beings enough
it's kind of
anymore,
exacerbating the anonymity.
we're losing the fact that, this is a human being that I'm talking to.
Right.
Laura Bailey is a mother and a wife.
And
an awesome
I don't care
person.
what her qualifications are. She's a person.
Right.
She's a person who does not deserve death threats.
And so we're losing a lot of that because we're stuck inside and the internet is our only view to the outside.
Yeah.
But death threats, man. For a video game.
Let's turn it around and get a little more positive, I think.
Okay, go ahead. I got a good one after this.
Hey,
a better one.
How many you've had an Xbox before.
Yeah.
You had an Xbox 360.
360, yeah.
How much you had it for what? Basically, you still have it. But you played it for basically its entire life cycle, I think, right? You got it pretty early on.
In fact, I think I got the 360 before I got the PS3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the life cycle was about 7 years. What do you remember what was your gamer score at the end?
I have no idea.
You don't remember? You never paid attention to that.
That was not important to me.
Any kind of guess at all?
Yeah.
Ballpark it. 10,000, 15,000.
800 million.
All right. Now you're just
I know, I don't
you're not
know.
taking this seriously, and this is nothing if not a serious gamer podcast. All right.
I can literally check if you want me to.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't care. So there's a
I
website.
say it's like 11,000. That'd be my guess.
Okay,
but
I think I remember. I remember like messaging somebody or putting on Facebook or something like when I hit 20,000, and I was like, yeah, because I like achievements. I like the thing. That's also something I think we should discuss about upcoming generations, video game consoles, and how they should continue if they keep. Anyway,
right.
Okay, there is a website called, I think it's like Achievement Hunter or achievements.com or some. Basically, they have a monthly, who can rack up the most achievement points in a month. And let's see. I want you to guess how many points somebody gained in 1 month.
In 1 month?
1 month.
1 million.
1 million.
That's my guess.
That is an exaggerative guess. Now you ruined the impact. 132,000 achievement points in a single month. Now, for context, if you don't know, most games will max out at 1,000 points.
Oh, that's true, because I platinumed Oblivion, and it was 1,000 points.
A platinum is essentially getting 1,000 achievement points.
Right.
A platinum trophy, or that's
platinum
essentially
is PlayStation talk.
So 132,000 achievement points in 1 month, which is about 132 games completed.
That's insane.
Yes, in a singular month. This was somebody named Sarah, who just absolutely wrecked the score, the record.
Sarah, get a job.
No, let me give you. Hold on there. Sarah has a job, a
Okay.
40-hour-a-week accountant job. But she explains this because she doesn't have to go to work anymore. She just works from home. That adds a couple hours a day. And because she's an accountant and is really good with numbers and really good with creating spreadsheets, she basically created a spreadsheet of finding games that she could pretty easily complete and get
So
the
it's
points
like her
from.
hobby is to do that
Kind
stuff.
of.
Okay.
So there's apparently one developer who makes like small, apparently fairly easy to beat and get, all the entire gamer score from it in about an hour. That was about 60 of the games she played. Less than half.
When the 360 first came out and gamer scores were a big thing, something that a lot of people got on board with was Uno. Because Uno was a game that you could quickly get gamer
Yeah,
score
there was some. I think
from.
there was an Avatar Last Airbender game that you could get in like 10 minutes.
Right.
You can get all 1,000.
Yeah, there's a lot of, man.
Oh, this is XboxAchievements.com. The thing is, that was less than half of those like really simple cheesy games.
Right.
She like straight up played full on games like Resident Evil 2.
She's working from home. You know for a fact that she's playing during work hours.
She claims that she played about 6 hours a day during the week and 12 hours a day on the weekends. She did Dark Souls was part of this.
6 hours a day during the week.
She's what
plus
you call
an
a
8-hour
capital
workday.
G gamer.
Yes. Sarah, do you have friends?
She is married. Let's see.
To like not a body pillow, right?
No, I don't. I mean, it says that
To her Sasuke body pillow?
I wish I was. She said that her partner was also gaining points, like they weren't combining them. They were just separately.
If they game together, that's cool. I can see that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's going to help for sure. But here's the thing. There was one more thing I wanted to point out. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. She was behind for most of the thing until like 5 days before when she really like started picking it up.
Buckled down.
In one day, she gained 29,000.
I
The
said
final day of the contest, she gained 29,000 achievement points.
I said 1 million because I don't really comprehend gamer score. Like that's
Sure.
not something I don't know. But what I will say is, now that I think about it, I said 11,000 is the guess for my gamer score. And this is just for my Xbox like user score. So this includes all PC games that I play via the Microsoft Store,
Oh, sure.
as well as anything I played on the Xbox 360. And that's for my life.
Yeah, that's your whole life. This was 1 month.
Holy crap.
Mine was about 24 maybe toward the end. She like quadrupled more than that in 1 month. I applaud Sarah. Great job. That's awesome.
You know what, man?
You've done good.
It's super cool, and especially if you and your spouse are cool with that. Like, whenever I hear things like that, my immediate thing is, are you socially okay? But she's married, and if they're doing all right, good for them, man.
Just
That's awesome.
yeah, just taking advantage of the quarantines.
Yeah, that's
Just
cool.
Doing the thing. Well, what have you been up to this week?
A lot, actually. So I'm going to try and hammer through some things
Yeah,
here.
let's get this over with.
I read a book and started another
Nerd.
book. And so I began and finished the Dear Evan Hansen novelization. And it's very good. It's definitely like a teenage level read. I read the whole like 400-page book.
Which makes sense. It's about a teenager.
It's about high schoolers. Yeah. I read the whole book in like 3 or 4 days.
Gotcha.
And so, but it was two things. Number one, it was the musical, but more. There was a lot more.
Yeah, as a novelization tends
they
to do.
Definitely dug into things more.
Can learn what people are thinking.
As well as they added a very minor supernatural element.
What?
Yes. Because it just minor spoilers. The very beginning of it of the musical begins with a character committing suicide, and it's kind of about the impact of that and the aftermath of that, and then that character still makes appearances throughout the musical as people are thinking about him.
Gotcha.
As people are thinking about
something
him,
you could do in
else.
a stage play that you
Right.
understand what's happening, or in a visual
In the
medium.
book, you get him as a quote-unquote ghost viewing the events.
I watched a couple movies, one of which I just remembered I watched, but I'll start with Just Mercy, a movie that came out a while ago, 7-8 months ago, about Brian Stevenson, a man who started the Equal Justice Initiative, which in Montgomery, Alabama, essentially it chronicles the beginning of that, where his goal at the time, it's expanded to a lot, but was to provide legal advice and legal counsel for men on death row, for people who just didn't have, who were both didn't have the resources to do it without like pro bono work like he was doing, and also were just victims of racist mentalities.
I watched 2 movies of equal like seriousness and import.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they are.
Sonic the Hedgehog,
yes,
and Cloudy with Champs with Meatballs 2.
Yeah, very, very just again racial injustice. You learn a lot about it from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs
Sonic
2.
movie is one I just hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Finally watched it, and it's good, man.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it.
It's fine.
I see why people liked it. It helped that I expected the least of it possible.
It's fine,
but
I don't care.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but my kids freaking loved it.
Okay.
And we did the 24-hour rental. They watched it twice in that time.
Okay.
And now they are all about these old Sonic cartoons.
Awesome.
I'm talking
those classics.
Early 90s to mid 90s. There's early 90s Sonic cartoons made in America that are cheese-tastic with the like, oh, I'm
he has that
super
attitude.
Cool Sonic with an attitude, but very clearly
Chili dogs.
He's that teenage hedgehog.
Yeah.
He's clearly a teenager in this. Yeah, chili dogs is a big thing.
He was supposed to be the edgy response to Mario, and so that was what they were trying to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the end of every episode, there is of course the Sonic says don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs,
Sonic
kids.
says don't talk to strangers. Sonic says don't play on train tracks.
Now you should get him to play the original games, and they can learn that bad Sonic games are not new. Here's my hot take. I hate the old Sonic games. I watched Hamilton. The old the movie version of the stage play.
I'm meaning to watch that.
Yeah, I mean it's a stage play. It's 3 hours long, which I didn't realize beforehand.
I haven't watched it,
but it definitely is engaging in it. There is a what's it called? It's funny they include the intermission, but it's just a minute.
Right.
You're like, all right. I mean, I can pause it at any time, but okay.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, obviously, it's a incredibly well made, like impressive with its lyrical density, because it's rap based. It's very funny. It's very emotionally engaging. It's, I mean, as far as I know, historically accurate.
Right.
It condenses an incredible amount of like events and American history into a 3-hour stage play.
My wife and I binge watched over 2 nights the entire Unsolved Mysteries one season that just came out.
Okay.
6-hour-long episodes. You wouldn't even know Unsolved Mysteries, huh?
I don't know what that is.
So
I assume it's just
late 80s, early 90s, right around when you were being born.
Okay.
And I was just a kid, like 6 or 7 years old. There was a show called Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay.
And it was literally they would just take real life things that happen and kind of like in a 1-hour documentary, or I guess at the time it was like 22-minute documentary.
Sure.
Discuss, here's what happened.
We don't know how or why. Yeah.
If you have any information, you can contact this phone number. And then in later seasons, they would say, hey, last season we had this thing, and you guys contacted us.
Turns out the butler
and we
did it.
Figured this out. And it was
interesting.
It was incredible.
That's fun.
It was super cool. Way fun. Anything from murder mysteries, missing people, UFOs, ghosts.
Sure.
Everything. Unsolved mysteries in general.
Missing, murdered UFO ghosts.
All right, man, that was a lot of talking.
Yeah, let's get down to the nerdy gritty already. But before we get to the nerdy gritty, I want to just take a quick minute here, talk about our Patreon. We've got a lot of stuff up on there. We've got 3 tiers. If you're listening to this podcast, really anywhere except for our Patreon, what you're hearing the shortened version, a version that we edit down the beginning of, just to make it a little more palatable, a little more easy to listen to, a little shorter. We can go pretty long sometimes. If you like our podcast and want to hear more, then if you become a tier 2 Patreon or patron on our Patreon, if your intelligence merges with the interwebs. If you become a tier 2 patron, then you gain access to what we call the director's cut. Usually about 20 to 30 minutes and sometimes more content in there, all taken from the beginning. More of our reviews, more of the news stories that we talk about. We never cut down the actual nerdy gritty because that's some important stuff that we like talking about, and don't really want to leave anything out of there that might make it harder to understand. Right. And so, as well as you would gain access to additional content for our YouTube channel. You get it early, and some other stuff. There we have 3 tiers. If that's not something you can support us on, of course, we understand. We are always grateful for any kind of support, whether that's sharing this, telling a friend about the podcast, or liking a video on YouTube. Whatever you can do, we really appreciate it. If you can, though, that's patreon.com/dezandfox, and we thank you so much for whatever support you can give us. Let's get down to the nerdy gritty.
So, of course, with this year, 2020, being what it was, or what it has been, and what it
interesting time.
Be, yes.
Sure. Yeah, it ain't over.
No, it's not. It's halfway over, just over halfway over.
Ooh, chilling.
There's a realization there, and November's not even here yet.
Oh, man.
But with everything happening, of course, there has been a lot of cancellations of large events, including the Electronic Entertainment Expo, better known as E3 and PAX.
Yeah, E3 was canceled this year.
Right. And so in the place of all of these things, there have been digital substitutions,
video game showcases, developer showcases.
Yeah,
it's a pretty word to use. It's used a lot basically to fill in that void of E3. A lot of developers and companies and organizations kind of put together their own thing, or organized a lot of different developers' game trailers, basically to take advantage of the absence of E3 this year.
Now, a few months ago, we talked about what if things went digital? How would that work?
Yes.
Because there were talks of the possibility of E3 being canceled, and we looked at how that would work.
We even talked about it last year after E3, just talking about, could this be better, even before we knew this would happen? I mean, I think we've talked about it several times, but we for sure talked about it like, how should E3 change? What could it be different? Like, even before this. So, yeah, no, we did our thing and predicted the future.
And so here we are now, and it's happened. And so the question is, did this go well? Are we okay?
We want to talk about how it compares to what it's been
compare?
like in the last couple of years. Well, in the past. Disclaimer, I think we want to get out there. They're not done.
Nope.
There's a lot going on still. Summer Game Fest is kind of a thing that's been going on, where it's a conglomeration of a lot of these events that are happening. Jeff Keighley has put this together, where they're not necessarily all events that he has put together. He's just kind of hosted a website that will point you in those directions. But hey, there's still more to come. We're not really trying to give you our take on all of the content. That would be way too much to do. And also, we kind of already do that on our YouTube channel every week, where we talk about a lot of the events that happen. What we want to talk about is, because the week that E3 was, quote unquote, supposed to happen already passed, and that week was freaking chock-a-block full
bonkers.
There was so much content that kind of tried to take the place of it. I think it's about time to kind of talk about, how did this look? Was it better? Was it worse? What could change? So I mean, let's just start with kind of an overall, like, did you enjoy this more than the typical 1 week of E3 events?
I'm going to be real honest
here.
here. No.
No? Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
So here's kind of my take on it, like we said, overall.
Yeah, overall.
So the way that this went, it really, for me, heavily emphasized the big three. Mostly the big two, even, Microsoft versus Sony.
Yeah, Nintendo hasn't really had much.
Right.
Nothing specifically Nintendo,
and
most of the time.
A lot of games, even, just not even like smaller games, just AAA games in general, have kind of been glossed over, because so much of this has been needed to be stuffed into, here is 2 hours of game trailers.
Sure.
Go.
Yeah.
Whereas once upon a time, there would be the Blizzard showcase, or the
Blizzard or
Bethesda
Ubisoft, Bethesda developers, EA.
right? The small showcases like that, or even large game announcements during this, for like one game gets 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever else. And we still have some of that with like the war tables and
you still have some game specific things that are happening.
But for the most part, I feel like we're getting a glut of content, and that's what I'm struggling with here.
Yeah.
Is with this glut of content, I am not caring as much.
It's kind of a blurring effect.
Yes.
When there are I mean, literally, probably at this point, 500 to 1,000 games that have been kind of displayed in these digital events. I mean, unless you're doing what we're doing, where it's watching all of them and writing down the games and or coming up with specific, you're just going to forget most of them.
Right.
Unless they stuck out to you in some big way. Most of them are just going to be like, okay, that's another game. Or even, hey, that looks pretty cool. And then you forgot about it a week later because you've already watched 4 more events and that brain space has been replaced with another event or anything. So yeah, I think I agree with you to a certain extent. I think overall I enjoy having it be a digital event like this with more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the downside is that there hasn't been, like the Hobbit movies where it's like, ostensibly I kind of like this, but it is just too much here.
Yes.
It needs to be cut down to be a much more palatable experience and to be able to focus on what really matters.
Quick sidebar here. Come
yeah,
here.
okay.
Come here,
all right.
Come
yeah.
over here. Come over
okay.
here. All right.
Let's go to the sidebar.
Here we are.
Hold on. You think in the legal district of big cities there's a bar called the Sidebar?
Please, yes.
When my wife becomes a lawyer, I'm gonna become a bar owner, and I'm gonna call and then all the cool
gotta put it near a law school.
All her friends will
yes.
You'll just say, hey, you guys want to take a sidebar, and that means going to the bar.
2 of my favorite theologians, J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, had a place they called The Bird and the Baby.
Yep.
It was the
their
Eagle and
literary
Child's.
club.
Yeah, the Eagle and Child was the bar that they went to.
They were the
Baby.
Inklings, I think, was their
so
their
cool.
club name that hung out. Anyway,
this is our sidebar over here. Hey fans, somebody take the 3 Hobbit movies and condense
somebody
them
already did. It already happened
into one.
It's a thing.
That is the Hobbit.
You can
the
find
book?
it on the internet. Yes,
Oh, I need to
as
find
close
that.
as they can to the actual narrative, and it cuts down 7 hours to 2 hours.
And that's what it should have
Yeah.
been.
Well, 2, sir, I can understand 2 movies, but 3 was too much, and even in each of those there was too much. So
yes.
Anyway,
okay, let's go. Let's come back over here.
All right,
to
back
the E3 side of things. Come on,
back to the E3 side. I think it was. I enjoyed having it all digital because I did think it gave some spotlights to some things that never would have gotten one if it was just E3 typical. But I also think, it was. We'll get into specifics like this, but I think overall, I enjoyed it less as the weeks went on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, there's just more to watch now, especially during the quote unquote E3 week when it was literally 14 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
And so we just said, just look up a list of the games announced and try to pick out some that look cool. Don't watch it, which is inherently negative, inherently not going to help those developers and even indie, the little indie games that need that attention.
No, in their defense, we made the foolish.
We did not know what we were getting into.
Yes, we made the foolish. This is things that journalist companies don't do.
Yes.
They don't all watch every single
They
thing.
split up the work
amongst
people who care about the things they're looking at. So
Right.
so we even watched ones that were like, we're never going to play this, but it's on Summer Game Fest, like Destiny 2. I don't care, but we
League
said
of
we
Legends.
would. Legally, we have to.
Yeah.
This is a YouTube channel, so
Anyway, overall, so let's get into that. Let's get
Yeah,
into some
yeah,
pros,
pros
and
and cons.
Let's get a little more granular here.
Yep.
Because I think that they had something that they could work with here.
100%. Yeah.
I definitely think that there was a lot to be done, but let me talk to you about. Let's go with some of the cons here. Some of the things that I
All right.
missed.
Start negative. I see.
Yeah, let's end with the positive.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, I'll give you that
end
one.
with the end
Maybe
with the
that's
good
how
stuff,
2020
man.
will end.
Hype
Hype.
is something that I missed from the big events.
Okay.
I will never forget The Last of Us 2 when everybody piled into that barn and they had that whole thing and then they moved on into the next room.
Sure.
That was incredible.
It was kind of cool. So you're saying the con here is that we don't get that.
We don't
really
get
as
that hype.
much.
Right.
Okay.
I miss the hype. I miss and especially crowd hype. Like something about watching a sports event is you still
That's
hear
true.
the roar of a crowd when
That's
you
true.
watch a sports event.
In actual live sports events right now, there are some soccer leagues going. They add crowd noises
Right.
even though there's no crowd because it attributes to the atmosphere.
And when there's silence, there was one game during the Baltimore riots a few years ago where in Baltimore, the Orioles played a game with no fans in the stands.
Yeah.
Because the riots were pretty bad. They didn't want to risk that. And it was eerie and weird to watch.
Yeah, it's strange.
And I feel like a lot of this now is I feel like this stuff is being presented to me and just me. And I know very much so that I'm going to talk to you about it later.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our Discord that we chat about stuff with, and I have that Facebook page that I chat stuff with. But I still feel like it's me and those 20
It feels
people.
a lot more informational rather than exciting.
Yes.
Which is fair to a certain extent. Like, I want to learn about these games more than I want to be excited about them, because sometimes hype can be detrimental. But I completely understand what you're saying. I'm thinking of, like, the Keanu moment.
Yeah.
If he just walked onto it, like, onto screen in, like, one of these digital events, it would have been great because he's Keanu. But also, like, you'd have been like, cool. But you wouldn't have gotten that just mysterious Keanu figure. Like, he shows up in the trailer, and you're like, wait a minute. Is that Keanu Reeves? And then, like, the doors open, and this figure, silhouetted figure walks out, and you're like, and then you don't get,
I love you.
Yeah, you don't get the "you're breathtaking" meme moment. Things like that are spontaneous, that can't happen with a real, like, sense of, you know, authenticity in a purely digital format. So I agree. Yeah, there's a sense of camaraderie, even if you are just watching a crowd watch the things you're watching. It feels very different.
Yes.
And I do think that there's an element missing from what's been going on, what's been showing. I think for me, another con is that Summer Game Fest was the closest we got to this, but I really would have loved a better centralized location to find all of the things that were happening. More information. The Summer Game Fest website was pretty lacking.
Not only was it pretty lacking, but it would outdate itself.
It wouldn't update. It wouldn't show you everything that they had shown. I would have loved more information about each specific thing. Like, give me a rundown after each event takes place of all the games that were announced.
Yeah.
I would have loved more of that, to have maybe like a thematic bridge between all of them, you know, to give them more space in between instead of kind of here and there and then a glut of information. I would have loved more organizational oversight. I think that was a con, is that with E3, here's the specific thing for everything that's going on. And it's one organization, like, kind of controlling all of it, which I think is maybe a negative for that. But it at least gave you, hey, you can see the schedule 2 weeks out, and for the next week, you're going to see all these events, and then you're done.
Right.
And then you have Nintendo, which does their own thing, but they always coincided with it, so it was essentially part of it anyway. But with this, it was just like, okay, well, there's 15 different, you know, not 15, like 45 different things happening over the next 2.5 months. And some of them are spontaneous, so you didn't see that they happened until after they happened. Absolutely. And maybe if it wasn't updated, you didn't know they happened at all. So I feel like there could have been a better sense of organizational oversight, especially because that's going to give the developers who are putting their time and effort into this more eyeballs to watch whatever's going on.
Yeah.
There are some things that if you hadn't seen them at the you asked me, like, you always seem to see more than I do. What do you? And I'm just like, I look at them more often, so I happen to see the things. And so if I hadn't told you about them, you never would have known.
Never would have known. And I would check. Like, I would just actively check.
Yeah.
But it just, it would be different. And I think that in and of itself is a huge part of it, because the way that E3 kind of condenses, the word I'm looking for, what's it called? Consolidates. Consolidates everything, and you know that you can watch E3 and know these things.
Yeah.
We stepped into this with the thought process we could watch the Summer Game Fest and get all this stuff.
Right.
And that there was some misorganization, but there were also things that just weren't part of it at all.
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen. But the ability to say, I can watch E3, I can go to /watch PAX, I can watch, the Kotaku, not Kotaku, the Japanese one. I can't remember what it's called.
Me neither.
Dang it. But Sakura-con.
There you go.
And
or GDC or whatever of these events. Yeah. Gamescom.
These are consolidating events that take all of these things and put it in one place. But now they're sort of just peppered everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on, sometimes multiple a day.
Right.
And they are long, 2 hours each maybe sometimes. A lot of it just people talking that isn't really relevant sometimes to the actual thing you're there for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It feels like I'm okay with more content, but if you're going to add so much more, definitely give us a better organizational tool to be able to witness all of it, give it more time in between so it doesn't feel like we're dumped on in 1 week and then a couple. Yeah, like I think that was a pretty big con.
Great if somebody would have, and heck, I wish I knew how to do this because it wouldn't be that difficult or it would be really nice to have this, but to create some sort of spreadsheet of everything that's happened and saying, here are the developers.
Sure.
AAA to
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Length of
game
video.
specific. I see.
Right, and just
because you could go on to a lot of like you go to GameSpot or IGN or whatever, and they would give you like, here's a list of all the gaming events happening. They weren't really comprehensive, and I also would like more information than that. I would like to know, like, give me a rundown of all the some centralized location to look at all of the games by genre. Tell me about some new Souls games that were announced, because I'm really into those right now. And I can look at Mortal Shells, and I can look at whatever the crap else you got. And I don't know. I think there was a place I was expecting this to be Summer Game Fest.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. I knew going into it that Summer Game Fest wasn't, that it was going to involve a lot of stuff that they weren't directly responsible for. That they were just kind of hosting an online watch party essentially. But it just didn't really carry that torch. That website was pretty. It's just one page, and it didn't really have enough for me. So I hope that they're learning some stuff, and if this is how it goes next year, maybe they can do a little better, be a little more organized.
And I'm actually going to swing back around to the live events thing and specifically say, and you kind of touched this on already, moments.
Yeah.
Moments were missing this year entirely.
Sure.
Nothing's going to get memed this year. That's not a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless,
moments like the Keanu Reeves thing, or I'll remember the pan flute and the Ghost of Tsushima trailer and that gal coming out to play it.
Yep.
And of course the Last of Us thing.
There was Sony always did a lot of cool stuff like that. They did the Days Gone thing with the hanging bodies, and when you showed on screen somebody like walking through these bodies, they shook.
Writhing,
and you're like, oh, that's a cool like atmospheric thing that's going on.
Or even little things like I think it was Todd Howard who came out to openly quote unquote apologize about Fallout 76.
Sure.
Things like that just when it's a digital thing, it's just not as
that's what I'm learning is that I
good.
like Nintendo Treehouse or Nintendo Directs for their succinctness and for their just like, hey, here's all the information that we know you want. It's 20 minutes long. But it also removes that human element of like, if Todd Howard came in a pre-recorded video and did that, he could have said the exact same thing. Probably wouldn't have felt the same.
Well, and Nintendo has the luxury of being by far the most notable brand with the most notable characters on the planet.
Yeah.
And so they can say, hey, we're coming out with a new Mario game. And we'll get hyped.
That's true. Yeah.
We'll come with a new
you don't
Pokemon
have to
game.
convince people of the next Zelda.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, Breath of the Wild 2, hype.
Here's
done.
a 30-second trailer. Everybody will buy it now.
Yeah. And so Nintendo has the luxury of being able to do their directs. And
Yeah.
But
they've also had that established for a long time, which helps us,
But here's the thing. New IP out of Nintendo still falls flat because they don't hype it live like they used to.
It's probably true.
I cannot think of an exciting new IP out of Nintendo for a while. Like a Nintendo
new
exclusive
IP, yeah.
Something that I'm like, heck yes. Whereas Days Gone was Sony just last year.
That's fair.
Huge. You know what I mean?
That was just last year. It's crazy.
Yeah. Microsoft still has new things coming out all the time.
Ostensibly, they have new games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they own Hellblade now.
Sure.
Senna was a person.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of cool stuff that each of these things do because they hype them live. They do these big things where you just don't get the same hype.
I surprisingly missed that a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I had when I had it, and now I regret everything. Yeah. So let's move on to pros.
Yeah.
Because we've been dunking on it a whole bunch. Let's move on to what we liked more about this digital only schedule. For me, I'm gonna start off with this gave not even much bigger. It gave a platform to indie developers.
Heck yeah.
That's like it was.
Woo!
You didn't have that in. You had PlayStation deigning to give 45 seconds to some indie game that they bought the studio. Like that,
it would be an indie trailer that
Yes.
exists to transition from AAA game
Yeah.
to AAA
100%. It would be like, oh, they've shown 3 indie trailers. You know what's coming up next.
Right, exactly.
Some IP I've already heard about.
They're getting the band on stage,
which doesn't mean those. Yeah, that's true. Doesn't mean those things aren't good or bad. It just means kind of gets the spotlight taken away from them by approximation. Is that the word I'm looking for? Proximity, that one. By proximity to the game you really want to know about.
Right.
Whereas if you watch Day of the Devs, that just happened a couple weeks ago, which has been happening for a long time now.
Favorite presentation.
You go into it and you're like, cool, 45 minutes of interesting, maybe weird, maybe goofy, definitely unique indie games that I will never have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
If all I thought was happening was E3. The thing is, Day of the Devs has been happening for like 10 years now. But when E3 kind of takes the spotlight from a lot of stuff. And so this actually kind of divided up all the attention. And that was the good thing at Summer Game Fest was it basically gave equal weight to everything going on.
Yes.
And so
it's
including big indie not big indie developers, but big events that showcase indie development, indie dev games. And so there's so many games. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play that. I'm going to play Lake.
Yes.
I never would have heard of that freaking game if I hadn't watched whatever the event was that I saw on. But I'm pumped for whenever it comes out. It's on my wish list. So
it really was this ultimate evening of the things because the time that was given to Goodbye Dinosaur High or whatever it's called.
Whatever that one is called.
Yeah, was equal to
Volcano High. Goodbye Volcano
High was equal to a lot of the other AAA previews and things like that.
And it started off, I'm gonna play Inglet.
Yep.
That weirdo game,
Yes.
but it looks cool. Why not?
So there was this evening of everything because to say that AAA games are always going to be better is just false.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are
false.
some people who might have that pretty toxic mindset, but yeah, like it's not even that you're saying it out loud. It's kind of like institutionalized priority for the more expensive games. And so by just this, like, you just get it through osmosis that, well, this game has been gotten a lot more hype. It must be better. And Days Gone was fine. I'm excited to finish it because then we'll be done. I think if it was
a 20-hour game, it would have been fantastic.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's a whole thing. We'll talk about that too. We're going to talk about. There's another upcoming topic is game length.
Yep.
But like, it was hyped so big by these cool PlayStation, Sony things that they did in their thing that, like, kind of maybe gave you a false impression of how good it is compared to others. Now, of course, that's subjective. That's that's impressions. It's always it's never going to be like the case whether or not you think it's good or not. Whatever, it's subjective. But when all the attention is given to those and the attention is taken away from these because there's only so many events that they can do in a traditional E3, so much time they can take, then it kind of just says, oh, these aren't important, don't worry about them. By Days Gone, by Last of Us 2, which aren't bad games, it just puts them on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm. I think, speaking of evening things out, like indie, the evening of knowledge was really huge to me. So there were a few journalists out there that would get, like, you get an hour's worth of Cyberpunk 2077.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, what every single journalist or big name company, whatever, got is exactly what we got as fans.
For the most part.
Right.
For
the most part.
Cyberpunk players, like people who got the game, got to play for 4 hours and weren't allowed to tell us about it.
Right.
But that's also to create hype. So that's a strategy.
Again, for the most part,
yes.
There wasn't like a exclusive journalist E3 events that they wrote about then later. There wasn't only the people who could afford to travel to a PAX got to see all that cool stuff.
Yep.
There wasn't any of this prohibitive type things where all of a sudden all gamers are created equal for this. like we all are able to receive all of this equally in a way that, you know what? I can now watch this and have my opinion on this, and sure, Joe Schmo may have written about it, but now he is not my middleman.
Yeah.
I don't have to read the Kotaku or the Polygon article to be able to know anything about that. Whatever they wrote about is exactly what I already saw, and I can form my own opinions.
Sure,
on it.
which it's really nice. I think I put another pro down here. Less room for technical error. And I'm kind of rethinking that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there absolutely is. But also, one of my favorite moments in the last couple of E3s was when Uncharted 4 crashed. And, like, Nathan Drake just stood there for a minute straight, like, in the middle of a crowd. And they had to reset the game. that's like a dumb moment, but also it's like memorable because of
Yeah.
it. And they even poked fun at it in the game. They gave you an achievement if you stand in basically that spot for about a
Really?
minute.
I
They
had
give
no
you
idea.
they give you a trophy for it, and it says like technical error or something like
That's
that. Technical
hilarious.
difficulties. Anyway, so I do think though, like I guess there's less room for technical error in your pre-recorded digital events. A lot of these things, I guess Jeff Keighley did do like interviews with people after they would announce,
Right.
after they announced what's the game I'm thinking of? Oh,
don't know.
when they did the Unreal
yeah,
Engine
yeah.
5 reveal or 6 or whatever one we're on.
That dude had the Tesla or the zappy thing in the background.
That's the founder of Epic Games.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's so
but so
good.
you do get some live things like that where it's like, sure, you can have some technical
that dude set up
difficulties.
his camera and was like, "That's like big empty spot.
That's
right
boring.
there."
Let's put this cool thing
And
here.
he thought, I got to put something there. That looks
It's
good.
Tim Sweeney. That's his name. Tim Sweeney, founder, the CEO of Epic Games. Anyway,
Oh, Tim, I love you.
he's such a great guy. Well, I won't say that. He's an interesting man. Epic Games is an interesting story. Anyway, there's less room for technical error. Like with Nintendo, you can have a short, sweet, like really well-formed digital event that just gets across the information. You don't have people trying to like sound cool. Like I think what I'm more thinking of, not technical error, but just like one of the most annoying things about traditional E3 is gaming businessman coming out and being like the cool guy who knows games but also wants to make money.
Oh, man,
And you
I'm
can
gonna
tell
get into-
that both of those things are existent in his mind at the same time, and it just comes off as wanting to be cool by
and he's
telling.
reading from the script that was written for him.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to downplay, like, they care about the games, obviously. I'm not saying
Yeah.
they only care about money, but it comes off as disingenuous a lot of times, or even just, I don't care what you have to say right now. Show me cool new content from the games I want to play. You're talking here, and maybe it's to load up whatever is happening next, or just, but it's like, so you have less of that. You have less of that, like, cool, hip gamer speak, which is very annoying. And so, because with a pre-recorded thing, hopefully they have somebody watching it saying, it didn't come off great. Let's do a different, let's try something new, So I think that's a pro there, is that you get less of the lame, you could do that in a real E3 also, but like, I think that's happened less. There hasn't been many of those moments where I'm like, there's been some, but not as much.
On that note, a huge one for me, and Day of the Devs did this fantastically, was the showcasing of devs. There was so little getting business guy in business suit,
That's
or
true.
in obviously dressed by some sort of costumer in cool guy clothes.
Yeah.
Like-
Got my diesel jeans, got my gamer tee, and I got
Right.
a jacket on, a suit
and
jacket.
a Monster Energy hat, like something like that. That was totally eliminated, but instead it's, hey, dev in my house.
Yeah, just literally some dude in his house who literally made the game.
And some of them were kind of awkward.
Yeah.
But I love
it.
I loved it because they were kind of awkward, but they're like, no, but we're seriously excited about our game, guys.
Yeah.
This is our game, and we worked hard on this, and it was really cool.
Yeah, 100%.
And not only did it make me also excited about their game, it made me want to like their game more because I got to see the artist.
The artist
not the-
showcasing the thing that they specifically
not
worked on.
the salesman.
Not the marketing department.
Exactly.
The literal developer of the game. And that's always really nice to see, is, hey, if you want to make the gaming community less toxic, humanize the gaming industry. Mm-hmm. The gaming industry also has problems, but people, when people see, the people behind the games that they're complaining about as people instead of just faceless game company, it's going to help, I think, the community overall.
But the ability to say, hey, dev, hey, somebody pick one or two devs from your area and have
some
them
hot devs in your area.
have them record 30 seconds of an intro.
Yeah.
And then we'll show that. And they can't do that when it's like, can we fly two devs to Los Angeles?
It's
from
not the same at all.
Over the
Some
nation?
indie company doesn't have money to fly to.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. So the ability to say, hey, record yourself real quick, so good.
Yeah. We've talked a lot already, but let's just, I think, right here to finish it off, what some very concrete steps maybe make it a little better next year.
For next year.
What
yeah, good. I
what
wanna
if
talk
this
about
is
that.
how it's going to happen again? Maybe E3 might be back, might be the same. It might be a combination of the two. What could they do better for next year?
Right now, I would say work on the hype of it.
Okay.
Obviously, there was a lot of unpreparedness this year,
Which makes sense.
Yeah, not
nobody saw this coming.
Yeah, that's the way it happened.
lot of the developers talked about that.
And so there was just a lot of, hey, let me throw this together right quick.
Kind of a shotgun effect. Let's get everything out there.
But to be able to create a like something like Fortnite has done, we've talked about that, where hey, in this VR space, we're going to announce this new game in Fortnite, or we're going to announce this new game via VR. Get in here, and we're going to make it seem like a social thing. We're all together here.
Okay.
Or something just where we've recorded this really awesome, really cinematographic. I don't know what to say, where the cinematography is really good and the way that they film it. Music video leading up to the trailer of music from the game or whatever else.
See, yeah, I miss Sony having their orchestra every year.
Yes.
That was such a cool thing, and it just points a spotlight on something in gaming that's not necessarily talked about a lot.
So just these hype moments and these really cool things, honestly, get people in there. In fact, you probably already do, social media managers, to say, hey, help us make memeable moments. Help us do something.
Maybe not with that, because when you try to make something memeable, then it just comes off as lame and stupid. It's like, I don't know, but yeah, like, go with more creativity, take some more time to develop it. Yeah, hype, like, in a way.
Hype, and again, with intentional focus on what is a really cool thing that when it happens, that will be one moment that people remember for years. You know what I mean? If we were to ask you, what did Keanu Reeves say when he was on stage? We would say, I don't know, but I remember when that dude walked on stage.
I remember a few things he said,
right?
Because he's Keanu Reeves and he's breathtaking. But
yeah,
I understand. Like I like the more. Yeah, I like your element of like create more of a moment, in the sense that like I would have loved when they did the. I really loved the Ghost of Tsushima event that Sony did, where it was just like 15 minutes specifically about this game. I knew exactly what they were going to talk about going in, at least the game they were going to talk about. I would have loved if that started with like a 5-minute like orchestral, just, hey, let's play you some of the music, let's bring you on a short, like, let's show you some of the footage from the research trip we took to Japan to learn about this place that we're creating a game about, things like that. Give us more of that atmosphere moment surrounding it, rather than just here's gameplay, that's the game.
Yeah, the music part of it is something that is really big, and we missed out on that a lot, and it's unfortunate. It really is. I also really think that no matter what happens next year, they need to focus on the devs again. Mm-hmm. Bring them back out, have them record that same thing, and just show it in your presentation. Maybe you don't go all digital next year. Maybe it is a big live event, but you can still show that quick video of devs introducing their game.
Sure.
That's okay to show that in a live area. So focus on the devs more. That was huge.
I think I think a more episodic, we talked about it a lot before, but creating a more organized format.
Yes.
All the developers, or just some overarching, basically neutral third party, like a Jeff Keighley Summer Games Fest type thing, saying, hey, we're looking at all of you on a neutral plane. You can do whatever you want on your own, but we're creating this big thing called the Summer Game Fest. We want you to be a part of it. We are not going to give you a spotlight over anybody else. We will give you an hour this week. There will be, events like every Monday and every Thursday. We will have the Summer Gaming Fest episode, whatever. This is Sony. This is this collective of developers, whoever. I don't know. And just make it easier to... I would love it if it was just like, hey, it's episode 4. I'm excited to see whatever's going on today.
It's a great idea, especially because you could even go in the direction of, hey, it's, $50 a minute. And then at that point,
there's the problem, though. That AAA developers have a little bit more money.
But what I'm saying, with the maximum of a single episode.
Okay.
Because that way then Sony could say, cool, we're going to buy that episode, and that's going to be the Sony episode. But then devs can say, here's $100. Can we have 2 minutes in one of your episodes?
Sure.
Like indie devs can do that kind of type of stuff. And yeah, you can do that kind of stuff. And so at this point, people got to make money. They got to live. So you don't have to do this for free.
I know. No, I understand. Yeah, we're not trying to say that. Like, it's still an industry. I get that. I would love it if there was some cross, like, hey, PlayStation is gonna, we're taking this episode, half of it's gonna be PlayStation exclusive stuff, and then we're also gonna get some of these cool developers.
Yeah.
Their games are gonna be on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
But also, we don't own them. We want to put a spotlight on, and PlayStation does that a little bit already. You can do that multiple times. Or PlayStation could take 5 minutes of every other episode, just spotlight a new game or something like that. Like, I would love, overall, what I would want, regardless of all the whatever pay structure, whatever we're talking about, overall, I just want it more organized. I want to know exactly which days something is going to happen. I want specific developer, like all these things organized. I want to know what's going to happen in each one. I would love to know so that I can be excited to see what's coming up. When there's something specific, when I see a Pokemon Direct, I'm like, cool. I like Pokemon. I'm excited for that one.
Right.
And that's exciting. When I see Direct, I'm also excited because it's going to be generally about Nintendo things. I have a Switch, so what's a new game? If it's a Fire Emblem Direct, I don't play Fire Emblem, but at least I know what I'm looking at. Like, I just want more information about what's going to happen each time, and the most important thing is I know exactly when it's happening, how long it's going to take, especially if it's a live, like, digital event.
I'm loving this idea of, like, hour-long episodes twice a week, the more we even talk about it, because there was, like, 1 week where it was 14 hours. We talked about that before.
It was a lot.
But now we've had 2 weeks with kind of nothing.
Yeah.
And there were other weeks where it was like one or
two, some of them wildly varying in length.
Right. But if you were to tell me that it was maybe like 4 episodes at half an hour a piece a week, or 2 episodes of 1 hour each a week, or something of that nature, I would be on board for that.
100%. It'd be really easy to digest, and predictability is very important.
It really, really is.
Yeah. So I think there's lots of things that they could take, but I think this was a good step in the right direction.
I agree.
But I think there's some refining that can be done, and I hope that they still continue in this trend, even if E3 does come back in a way. I do hope they continue in this trend and can take some steps like, hey, let's get some feedback or something from our fans and see what people liked and didn't like.
Yeah, I think balance is good, but overall, I think I would actually lean in the direction of the digital. Even though I said I missed the physical, I think that with a lot of cleanup and being more prepared, obviously, that the digital could be the way to lean toward.
I mean, it's the way of the future.
Yep, absolutely.
100%. Like, it's just, so let's take this time and understand, like, this is kind of a blessing in disguise.
Right.
The whole, not the quarantine, not the disease, obviously. Just the fact that you kind of had to. Yeah. You couldn't really do what you had to do, so you had to try it. And you get a pass a little bit for it coming off a little sloppy, because we get it. We understand.
Yeah.
So then take it next year and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be a little more clean cut, a little more just organized and easier to digest for the fans.
Yep. Well, guys, thank you very much for listening. Hey, let us know what you thought about the digital summer that we had.
Yeah.
Let us know what ideas you have on how it could be laid out next year. We want to say a huge thank you to you guys for listening, and a huge thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and some of my neighbors do too, off of the album Dear Sam. It's a great album, and they got a lot of other great stuff out. Go check them out.
Yeah, I want to point you in the direction of our YouTube channel if you're not already watching or listening to this on there. We have lots of videos going up literally every day, including Days Gone is still happening because it's the world's longest game, as well as The Last of Us Part 2 that we're going through, and unless you're... it's very emotionally impactful, so prepare yourself for that. I've got some demos that are going to be coming up soon. I'm playing through the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, which will be coming out basically leading up to the fourth one. I've got a lot in the works right now. Also, Assassin's Creed, some other games that I'm not even actually announcing right now. Got a lot of stuff, so go ahead and check it out because there's something there for you.
I want to apologize because I've been saying that Code Vein will be coming out for a while, but
you liar.
It hasn't been, mostly because
Mentiroso.
I want to build up a backlog of it.
Sure,
I want to film,
it's always very nice,
just in case.
Yep.
So, but it should be
eventually. It'll be there.
By the time you're listening to this, it should be there. I've got about
the beginning is already there anyway.
I've got about a dozen episodes recorded, and I'll be recording more tonight. Actually,
gotcha.
So hopefully I'll be able to actually finish that up.
Nice.
Thanks again, guys, for listening, and always remember that save games, save lives.
See you next week.
My voice sings low.